Habari mko fiti, manze nimewamiss, manze nimewahata. Welcome to Cele's Reflection. Yay! I know it's been a minute, guys. Tulikuwa tumeenda TNT, tukaenda tours, tukafanya. I hope umewatch link. Umebuy link ukawatch www.njugush.ke. You watch your TNT there. Now we are back. We are back for Cele's Reflection, and so help me God. Tuichape mpaka next day at TNT. Consistently mpaka next day at TNT. So today's topic, as you've seen, it's about relationships. Well, almost everything about relationship. I have a guest who is going to be a professional. Wachana na ile akimani. Now I have a serious professional on set. Reason being, of late nimekuwa nikiona ama nikisikia ama hata wewe sijui about you, but from where we live, from the social media, what we see, issues do about, it's like relationships are not working. Like from what we see, it is like, ukianza kudate, hey, umeenda tu hapo, hey, wacha tu tukungoje hapa nje tutakuambia. Yani mpaka msee mwenye akona hope sana na relationship yake kuwa poa anaogopa. Because everything out there imekaa tu, pia wewe, hey, tunakungoja. A true story. When I got married, hata sikuwa kwenye tulikuwa tunaishi kwa hiyo apartment, tulikuwa 4 houses. Na moja ilikuwa landlord. So 3 tenants. So nimeolewa 2016, so sina job, so timu akiishia mimi nabaki solo. So siku moja happen, I don't know, tulikuwa kwa neighbor mmoja, tulienda kushika mtoi ama wapi. Tukaenda the 3 of us. Hey. Hata sijai sema hii kitu, acheni tu niwaambie. Nilisema tena sitaienda tena nao neighbor. They were not bad neighbors, but they are still good friends, we talk. But there was a whole 30 minutes za Cele kupatiwa msomo. Mwale wa kwanza na celebrity wewe. Wasichana wakianza wewe. Yani mpaka nikashindwa. Kwani walikuwa wanangoja hii moment ifike ile siku itafika waniambie. Yani it's like they know something that I don't. Ndio tu ni kasichana kameolewa. Washaanza kunipatia all this negative energy. Kwanza huyo. Hey, ngoja tu. Anyway, guys, hiyo ni story for another day. And that's the reason why I have a therapist/psychologist on my show today. Mr. Kamau, karibu sana.
Thank you.
Pole sana, nimeongea sana kabla.
That was fun.
No, but I just remembered that. Imagine.
Right.
Anyway, introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Kamwangi, and as you said, I'm a psychologist. I'm
Yeah.
a lecturer at Tangaza University in Karen, and I'm also a psychotherapist. So those are the 2 things that I generally do at the moment here.
So you are a psychotherapist. So you do both. You can therapy. You're a therapist and
yes.
you're a psychologist.
Yes.
Oh.
So not every psychologist is a therapist.
That is what I wanted to ask.
Yes.
Not all are both.
Yes, not
but
all
you
are
can
both.
be both.
You can be both, depending whether you did counseling psychology or clinical psychology. So, but we have very, very many fields of psychology, but not everyone who does psychology can be a therapist as such. Yeah. So, yeah, not every psychiatrist even is a therapist. Yeah.
Well, like
Right.
not every, let me give you an example that is home to me. Not every content creator can be an influencer.
Oh, that's a good one. That's
So,
a really good one.
I can be a content creator, but maybe personally, me content creator. Maybe I'm both to you. I don't know if I influence you.
Big time.
But
I was
think you
geeking
can.
by the way. I was geeking. This is the first time I'm meeting her. I was geeking like mad. But it was...
Yeah, so my topic today, especially from that story, nimekumbuka tu sai. Because the society, we have good relationships. We have good bana. We have, well, Margaret Kenyatta, and we have Ruto, and tunaona good ones. But the bad ones, hizo na kukauntia hivi haraka bila hata, like I don't know why mpaka unafika place a young girl wants to get married, I'm a young man, but the society, the stories out there, why is it that relationships are not working that much nowadays? There are those that are working, but shida imekuwa.
So, well, wacha tuanzie na kitu tulipewa inaitwa akili, our brain. Let's start from there.
Akili.
Yes. So our brain has something we call negativity bias. That means our brain registers more negative stuff than positive. That means nikakuuliza the stories of pain you have more details
than the good.
Because our brain wants to keep you alive. So it is going to remember the danger points more than the positive points.
And that's how we are made.
Yes, that's how our brain are. So we call that negativity bias. So what kind of gossip goes around? The one that marriage is stable and nice, or
the negative?
Because we enjoy that, and our brain likes that. Our brain likes
You
to
enjoy
feed
that
on
too?
that. Yeah, no, but personally, well, I'm a therapist, so I listen to these kind of things a lot. When I'm done, I'm like, hey.
But we love the
yes,
negative.
yes.
That's true.
Correct. So we like who is going out with who. Your marriage, Cele na celebrity tawaksi.
Wacha tuangoje.
Give them some years.
Kai.
Wacha mtoto watatu wakuja. Sorry, okay. I don't know.
So it's something that is made to happen like that.
So we are inclined to work like that. Now, why are so many relationships not working? The number one is, how many of us get prepared for relationships? Very few of us get prepared for relationships.
How am I supposed to get prepared for a relationship?
Like, in the sense that you're a content creator. I'm sure you have taken several classes. Before I became a psychologist, I was trained for so many years for that, right? But oftentimes, let us look from the church perspective. When someone wants to get married, how many classes are you given?
Those classes, marital.
Marital classes.
Sisi, we did, I think, 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay?
Yeah.
So 2 weeks. Tell me one respectable job you can get to after 2 weeks of training. Hakuna. So that's one of the problems that we have. Very, like the engagement is so intense forever, but the training and the preparation is so small. And then we are coming from broken homes. Okay, oftentimes we're coming from places where we didn't see what love looks like. You ask a lot of people, would you want your marriage to look like your mom and dad? They're like, no, I don't want that. That's a very good sign that these people's template of love is also not very good. Because it works like this. Our brain loves the love that we receive from our parents. The system that our brain uses to receive love from our parents is the same system it uses to love our spouse.
So what you're saying is, the way I am loving my son.
Yes.
The way I'm loving Tugi.
Tim. The way you're loving to Njogosh.
No, the way I'm loving Tugi is the way he will love his wife.
Yes, correct.
Oh, so I am teaching him.
Yes. You are teaching Tugi
how to love.
Remember, so brain is your hardware. The mind is the software. Okay? So let's say this is the brain. All the apps inside here is what we call the mind. Okay? The brain, when inamaliziwa before you're 10 years, it's done. The hardware is done. But the mind takes 27 years.
Yeah.
Do you know what that means? It means that you are still, the brain is still like absorbing and learning. It's a learning machine. So Tugi is watching you and Tim. He's watching you fight. He's watching you reconcile. And he's going to do exactly the same. Right? So if he doesn't see a lot of fighting and then someone fights him at church, he does not know how to deal with that because he's not a fighter. He has not seen conflict. So he's well protected in that sense. You see what I mean? So we are constantly absorbing the manner in which we saw love happening. So it's very fascinating things for parents to know that they're constantly modeling who their children are going to love. They're the biggest influences of their future child's relationship.
Sasa here's the... Okay. So Tugi, for example, Tugi aone vizuri, then the wife.
Yes.
Wife to Tugi aone something else.
Yes.
So these two, when they meet,
right,
kutakuwa na shida.
It will be a problem. But the good thing is, because Tugi grew up in a stable, loving place, he is very alert to red flags. More than the person who grew up. So what happens is we have what you call attachment theory. So I'm going to explain that a little bit. So in psychology, the attachment means that, as I was mentioning to you, the way your parents loved you, with a certain amount of love, you are going to look for someone who loves you the same amount of pain. Let me explain that. So we have what you call avoidant attachment, okay? So let's say your parents are not very consistent in responding to emotional and physical needs. They avoided responding to that. Okay, you realize that crying doesn't do anything to my mom. She's not going to take care of me. You realize that when you try to say you have a problem, your dad is like, shut up, what's wrong with you? So you realized, okay, so people are not usually emotionally available. I should not expect it. So when you're an adult, you are in two places where you want to love. And at the same time, it freaks you out to love. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So you are in this place of loneliness. You want to be in a relationship. And yet when someone wants to love you, you push them away.
Because that's what you saw.
Yes, you push them away. But the desire to love remains. You see? And so these kind of people can be very, very independent. The idea of relying on someone scares them because they know that that person is not going to be there tomorrow. So they become radically independent. I don't need anyone in my life. They can be very wealthy. They can be very good, but they don't know how to sustain a relationship. The other side is sometimes your parent would respond with love, sometimes they would not. Sometimes they would ignore you, sometimes they would be there. So you don't know whether your parents tomorrow are going to respond or not. So you become anxious. When you grow up as you go into a relationship as an adult, you're always anxious. Will he call tomorrow? Will he love me? Who are you hanging out with? Why didn't you talk to me yesterday? Are you mad at me? Should we break up? You are constantly anxious. You're
Then the
constantly
other person is like, "Wana nisumbuanga sana."
Yes.
Oh God.
So people with anxious attachment, they have a very poor self-esteem, and they always think they are the problem in a relationship, and they think the other person is the best. And people with an avoidant attachment, they think they are the best, and the other person is the problem. And often these people end up in the same relationship. So one abuses the other. Now we have the secure attachment where your parent responded consistently with love to your emotional and physical needs, and you attract someone similar to you. And that's the beauty of it, in the sense that if you are loved properly, you will attract someone who was loved properly.
Then this will work.
This will work. So there's a very, very low chance of someone who is securely attached or someone who was loved consistently to end up loving someone who was inconsistently loved. Because when it comes to this, like attracts like.
So does it mean the avoidant one, Naki meets the liked one, the one who's raised well?
Yes.
They can work out?
They can work out. The chances are lower. The chances are lower simply because the secure person is very available. It's going to be checking on the avoidant person. Hey, how are you? How was your day? But remember, the person with the avoidant personality
will keep on pushing.
They keep pushing. And we say in Kikuyu kowabere, like what they do is, before you leave me, I'm going to leave you.
Oh.
Right? Yes.
But let me ask you something.
Right.
So, kama mimi siwezi kuambia ati I'm which person. And I'm sure most of us, after watching this, well, utaki to generalize, but because me, most of my life nilikuwa boarding school. So by the time na grow, either my dad was working far, anakuja Friday, Saturday, Sunday anaishia. He was there. See ati he wasn't there. Mimi nimeenda boarding, tunafunga 1 week to tuition. So I can't tell you which najua tulikuwa naenda church na madhe tunakula ice, tunapitia studio, tunapigwa picha. It was nice. It wasn't bad. So saa ukiniambia nijiweke niko wapi?
Right.
I can't tell you exactly which person I am. It wasn't, they were not fighting. There were no fights between my parents, so I didn't see that. There were, it was just a normal home, if I may say.
Yes.
Dadi akuje na makaa, na nini, tupike, githeri, tulale. See, these are squeezes are bedtime stories. We didn't have bedtime stories. But that was enough for me. So if you ask me what kind of person I am right now, and I'm sure most of us, we don't know.
Yeah.
So sisi maybe tunajipata tu kwa relationship as work. I don't know which. How can I know what kind of a person am I?
Well, there are assessments that we do. Like if you come to me for therapy, I can do an assessment to see what's your attachment style. I'll give you a sort of an assessment, a series of questions, you'll answer them, and then from there we'll be able to figure out what kind of attachment style you have. But you're also looking at your own situation, you might find that in your relationship, you are pretty much like how you grew up. You're okay with the bare minimum. You don't have too much expectations because that's how you also grew up. So you can also observe that. But then also understand that attachment is not written in stone. Okay? You can come from a broken home and you know what broken home is. And you can be very, very intentional.
With now your home.
Yes, with your own home, with the manner in which you love. The problem is, these attachments we are not aware of them oftentimes. We are not aware of them. But I can look back at my series of relationships and I can find a common thread in the girlfriends I've been dating and breaking up with. I can look at the common thread in my sexual life. I can look at the common thread in maybe the boyfriends you've dated, and you can see what is consistent about them. You might find that, all the girlfriends I tend to date are very emotionally unavailable. Right? Who was like that in my family? Was it my mom or dad? Is that how my family was? People were emotionally unavailable. right? So maybe the people I break up with are very, very much available. And I cannot tolerate that. Like you're into my space too much. Was that the way it was in your family? That you find when someone loves you too much, you're like, consistently you're like, it's too much. Are you too much available yourself? Right? Because you're always worried, well, this person might leave me. Maybe I'm not good enough for this person. So you have an anxious attachment. You're constantly asking yourself, does this person really love me? Ama tu ni vila nihurumia. Right? You're constantly anxious. That's your thinking pattern. So those are signs that, there is something not working here. And possibly it is you. You need to examine and look into that.
So are you telling me, ukishajua all this, is it curable, or you can come back, you can come out of it? Like you can come out from being an avoidant person to...
Yes.
When I'm all grown...
Correct. You can.
Niko tu mtu mfiti.
Yes.
Okay, si ati ulikuwa mtu mbaya, but niko tu secure.
Yes, I can. Because you see, our brain has something called plasticity. That means our brain can grow. If a neuroscientist did a brain scan of your brain in the beginning of this conversation, and then you learn something new from me, and the neuroscientist does a test after this, they can tell the difference that you have learned something new because your brain has changed, literally by learning something new. So your brain has plasticity. We call that neuroplasticity. That means it can constantly mold itself to new information.
And start using the new information.
Correct. So intentionality.
Intentional.
You can be very intentional and tell your partner, hey, look, this is how I grew up. I understand my personality. I tend to be very avoidant. So when you see me acting like this, I may be trying to push away, but this is what is happening. But I'm trying to work on it. So the other person knows, right? So a certain vulnerability.
Yeah, so this brings me to the point that you don't have to come from that bad, or rather not bad, from the way your nini was, from what you saw when you were young.
Correct.
It doesn't have to be exactly what yours will be.
Yes, it doesn't
so guys
have to.
can, because I feel, sahi na film msana sema, unajua mimi nilionanga, so that's why hata mimi niko hivyo.
Yes.
So you can change it.
Yeah,
it's like we're using it ni kama kujitetea.
We call that learned helplessness.
Learned what?
Learned helplessness.
The action of them kujitetea kila saa.
Yes, saying, because I grew up, my
dad
was like that.
My dad drinking, abusing my mom, so that's why I'm like that.
Yes.
I feel like mtu asha give up.
Yeah.
So that's why even me, I'm like that. So you just change it. If you didn't like it, if you can change it, change it.
Yeah. Let me tell you about a fascinating experiment in psychology so there is this psychologist called Martin Seligman. What he did is he took a dog, put it in a cage, and then made the floor of the cage had electric shocks. Okay, and then the dog could not jump out. Okay, so it would get electric shocks all over. And it could not run out because it realized there's no way it could run out. Then he would take the dog and put it in a new cage where it can actually jump out. But and then put electric shocks. But the dog is already in the mind.
In a cage.
Yes, it's in a cage. That is exactly what happens with this kind of attachments. Even when we can run, our brain has already convinced us.
We can't.
We can't. And so someone else watching us from outside is like, why can't you just leave that bad relationship?
But you're like, I can't.
The person can't. Because our brain prefers to be hated than to be ignored. Because if you hate me, you see me.
If you ignore me, you don't see me.
You don't see me. And the brain hates that. We hate being ignored. So I'd rather be in an abusive relationship where at least a person sees me than in none at all.
Which should not be the case.
It should not be the case, but loneliness kills. Loneliness kills at least 5 million people annually, globally. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. And loneliness is increasing big time in our world today.
Sasa tufanye nini? Wakikaa wanauana.
Yes.
Akikaa peke yake ana.
Yes.
What do we do?
And I think that's why we need to talk about relationships like we are doing now more. I'm sure people who will watch this channel or this conversation, they're going to learn. They're going to be more self-aware. I think there is a part in the scriptures that say that my people get lost for lack of understanding.
Lack of knowledge.
Yeah, lack of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So I think if we increase that could be helpful.
Yeah, because Aki, it makes me sad.
Yeah.
Mkiwa sawa.
Yeah.
Hata mimi najua.
Yeah.
Ile siku tutakuwa na scandal. Hatutai trend. Yani it will be the best more than the shows we've done.
Right.
It's gonna blow out the most.
Right.
Unaona TNT tunafanya tunastyle tunafeel ikiwa it still doesn't get much.
Right.
Ile siku kutakuwa na kakitu.
Ka scandal hivi.
Because when you're doing it good, even the society, it's like ni kawaida. We don't see that.
Right.
But kakitu kabaya. Kabaya. You haven't even had his story or her story.
Yes.
Whatever you saw, you took that, you blow it out like completely.
Partly one of the reasons that scandals like this work is if my life is not working out very well, right? And the people who are admired and their relationship is working, suddenly does not seem to work. You just feel, I feel good. Tuko wengi.
Unajicomfort.
Yeah, unajicomfort. That's it. We call that crab mentality. There's this idea that if you put crabs in a bucket, you don't even need to cover them because as soon as moja ikianza tu kupanda, ile ingine itaivuta chini. So they will remain there because none will get out. So we call that crab mentality. So people enjoy those kind of scandals.
But there's a problem because everybody is enjoying that.
Yes.
Tuko wengi.
Yes.
Tuna enjoy scandals.
Negativity bias. We love those kind of conversations. We love those kind of gossip, office gossip, whatever gossip it is. It's always on the negative side of things. And our brain constantly looks out for that. It wants to hear that. Gossip played a role in human beings living together. So it's a huge part of our history. So it's very difficult to get rid of gossip, right? So when we are able to, someone is up there and kuja hapa chini, we enjoy it. You just remember when you were in high school and you are given results of your exam and unafunguka na guy niko na 27. Unafunga. Then unaangalia hapo unaona 21, 15. Unafungua yako. Sio? Like, tuko wengi, right? Yeah. But when someone is the one student who is doing very well, what do we start saying? Because it's challenging us. We teacher nampenda, we hide their books, we want to show you you're not so different from us, You are that prophet hated in their own home. Stop calling us forward. So we like to kill the prophets who are reminding us that we can be better constantly.
Yeah.
So that's something about the dark side of human nature, unfortunately, where we have created an environment where it's very, very competitive. And when we realize we can't get to the top, we start pulling the ones who are the top down instead of realizing, okay, there is enough for everyone. But there's a huge scarcity mentality that there's not enough. And so we're gonna make everybody who tries to look better than us look bad, The other challenge is we have idealized romance and relationships. Okay, you go to IG, you watch movies, media, right? Yeah. And you look at these perfect relationships.
I was about to say actually what you were saying, because you see, they only see.
Yes.
I think you see only, let's say 70%. Do they know my house? They know my kids. I can say they see a lot, but kuna 30%. They don't know at all. I'm at 50%, they don't know.
Possibly more, yeah.
They don't know Cele. Well, yes. Guys, I think you know me because I'm always here.
Right.
But kuna ule tu mama tugi, ule Cele. Hamwezi mjua kabisa. But because you see all this nice stuff that we post, nice life that we post, you start feeling like this is the couple goals.
Yes.
Actually, wanazitanga couple goals. Na umse unamwonanga sijui post 2 in a day. But in your head,
yes,
that's what a couple goal is.
Correct.
But behind the scene, how dewy.
Yes. You have not seen the work that maybe you and team have put in place. And we don't know the culture of your house, of your home. We don't see all that. We see the finished product. Right? And so there is the finished product that is healthy that we see, but I think there's so many exaggerated finished products out there.
Oh, yes.
And that is impressing on people. It's impressing a lot of young people. And they're going into relationships.
With that expectation.
Yes. With a movie expectation, with a series-like expectations.
Oh, yes. Until nafiki ambiwe, nipakuliange chakula kila jioni.
Right. Mimi siwezi fanya hivyo. Or even there's a conflict, just a normal conflict.
Yeah.
And they're like, but you're not supposed to fight. We love each other.
Oh, yeah.
Right? How can we fight? But one thing we tell couples when we are preparing them for couples is the best thing you can do is not to think that you will never fight. The best thing that you can do is to learn how to fight well, because you will fight.
Yeah.
So how do you fight fairly across everything else? So what do you do? Sio mwenye nguvu mpisha. So how do we fight? Okay, we don't fight maybe when our emotions are very high. Okay, we don't fight when we have maybe taken alcohol. We don't do that. We don't fight in front of anybody. We don't fight in front of our kids. Okay, you don't say abusive words. Okay, so if you're a difficult conversation, we have a date to go and figure that out. So we figure out the parameters of how we fight.
How to fight.
Yes, because you will fight.
Fighting is a must.
Yes. So the best thing is not to wish there will never be floods. The best thing is to have an ark ready when floods come. It's a better thing of looking at it,
And how do they take it in that class?
It's very interesting.
Do you know how our what are they called? Those classes, they're called?
Premarital classes.
Premarital. I was... Yetu ilikuwa na pasta.
Right.
Mwenye alitushikanisha. So you don't expect in-depth ama story mingi sana.
Right.
So ni ya kusomea verse. Ile yenye nani alimwagiliwa mafuta.
David?
Down to the beard. I don't know who was that. Who was that on Biblia?
Is
it? Alimwagiliwa mafuta. So imagine, hii ndio class tuko. Ya premarital. Hata saizi dejo nani alimwagiliwa mafuta, guy.
It should be David.
It was David.
By Samuel.
To his beard. Yeah.
I think
Samuel
so.
something. Yeah. Guys, I go to church, but... So yeah, so beard, mafuta,
right.
So alafu pasta akwambia massage ni mzuri. So uko na massage. That was a premarital class.
I was actually thinking a pastor would be much better because akona bibi nyumbani than...
I don't think so.
Ati massage. Then from olive oil, alipata massage.
But massage by the way wanasemanga ni poa sana.
No, I agree. But
so
it cannot be everything.
Exactly.
It cannot be everything. It's just the icing on the cake.
Sasa hata mimi najiuliza bwanangu hata ana beard. So inafaa imwagike iende wapi?
Akita sikiu.
Anyway, guys.
Right.
I'm not trying to say parcel tusaidia sana. At least you say I still remember your story of oil. But I feel like if now I was going for a premarital class, I would see a psychiatrist.
Psychotherapist.
Psychiatrist ni
Maritotherapist.
Psychiatrist ni?
A psychiatrist who gives medication.
Oh, medication, yeah. So a psychotherapist. Because according to Percy, I feel like a couple ikikam the same.
Yeah.
A couple ikikam.
They're using the same template.
Yes. Unlike you'll ask team, umetoka hapi, you'll dig deeper.
That is true. We are very intentional about... See, one of the mistakes that I find people making is, you're married to your wife, and you're loving her like as if she's like any other woman, right? And you're saying, wanawake mnakuanga hivi.
Bas.
Wanaume mnakuanga hivi. Okay, there are some similarities I'm not refusing across women, across men. Surely. That's why some jokes work, when someone makes a joke and you're like, my wife does this, and you're like, oh yeah, even mine does that, right? But at the end of the day, your husband is not everybody.
Yeah.
So what works for one couple may not work for the other. But you've got to figure that out together. All right? Yeah. Figure that out together. Now, don't figure that out 10 years into your marriage, 5 years into your marriage. Sometimes that's a bit too late. Already there's 1, 2, 3 children already present. And that's where dating and courtship matters. Right? Like have those difficult conversations during dating.
And I have one difficult conversation that I want us to have.
All right.
Guys, this is part 1. Bye-bye. You tell them bye-bye. Then we do part B. Bye-bye.
Been a pleasure. Pleasure, see ya.
I love that difficult conversation. Right. Now we talk about money.
Money.